Hi folks, this is Andrew Stevens from andrewstevensgolf.com and the Golf Performance Studio in Burlington, Kentucky. What I want to go through here today is just kind of a brief overview of a website that I'm starting to use with my students called Birdiefire.com. Basically what this site is just in-depth stats tracking for your golf game. So it's really going to allow me, the instructor, to get a much better idea of what's going on, while my students are playing golf. And so what I want to do here is just kind of give you a little demo of what you'll see here as the player, what you'll see in terms of stats, and then what I'll also see as your teacher. So you can see here, this is a player of ours that plays at Cincinnati. So we're been using this with the golf team for about the last month or so here, or I guess a little less since school started, and been able to really kind of track a lot of things with our players, and it really has given us the ability to go directly at the source of what's keeping us from shooting the scores that we want to shoot. So first of all, before we kind of go into what the stats actually show, when you're using this site, you, the golfer, is in charge of entering the stats. So there's nothing that's done by the website or done by me, the instructor. It's all basically you entering your stats following your round of golf or during your round of golf. Most of our guys that have used this have said that to do an 18-hole round of golf takes them about 10 minutes. So it's not an incredibly time-consuming process here, but it's definitely something that we've already seen the benefits of. There is a mobile site that can be accessed from any smartphone, so definitely makes it easier. You can also do it. On the computer, but it doesn't take a whole lot of time. About the only thing that you'd really have to pay attention to is how far you're putting from. So really it's not asking a whole lot in terms of user input, and it's really going to produce a lot of information. So I just want to show you the stats that we're capable of tracking right now. So like I said, we're going to look at we're looking at the qualifying rounds here, so qualifying and practice rounds that Jared's played here. Basically, using this with my academy, you the golfer can enter any round of golf that you want to enter. So all you'll have to do is just pre-enter the pars of the holes on your golf course, and you can actually label different golf courses, and then it'll go through and ask you questions about it, and from there kind of come up with our stats. Like I said, the whole goal of this is providing stats as close to what the guys on the PGA Tour are getting, but making them available to the masses. So what we'll do is we'll kind of walk through a few of the things that we're able to see with this site and show you how they can help. So first one here is ball striking details. It'll actually ask you on approach shots what club you're hitting into the greens here. And so for me, the teacher, I can sit here and say, okay, what club are we using the most often, and how are we performing with each of those clubs? And so you can see here it's number of shots that we tracked, how many times he's hitting the green from the fairway, and how many times he's hitting the green from the rough here. So good information to know there. If you see that we're not using 4-iron, 5-iron, 6-iron a lot, but we're using 9-iron pitching wedge, 52 and 58 a lot, and that's what you'll see with his stats here. In fact, as we go into longer irons, you can see those numbers decrease, while he's got a lot of shots with a 58 and a 52. So if I'm structuring practice for this student, I say we need to spend more time on the short irons, because that's where we're getting the majority of our shots here. So good stats to know there. The next category is called approach. So very cool stuff here. Basically, how far, how many shots are you hitting from different yardage ranges throughout your round of golf? So you can see here, if we kind of look at the highest marks here on the blue graph, it's saying from 151 to 160 and 161 to 170, he's hit 11 shots either from fairway or tee. So probably what you're seeing there is a lot of the par threes are in that range for him. So if you look at the numbers here, we can look at that. You can see a lot of shots hit from 91 to 100 and a lot from 101 to 110. Those are probably those 52 and 58 degree wedges we looked at. So if you're sitting there on the driving range and you're hitting nothing but 5 irons, and you look at your stats and you see that we're not really ever getting that yardage, you know, maybe we structure our practice to where we use the clubs where we're seeing more of those yardages. Same thing here, greens hit by yardage. Lets you know, okay, where do we need to spend our time? Where are we less accurate? And then obviously here at the bottom just kind of is a numerical version of that graph. So yardages here, how do we play the hole? Do we par? Do we make birdie or better? Do we par, bogey? And then how often do we hit the green? So then you can see percentages here, hitting the green from the fairway, hitting the green from the rough. And then a very cool stat here is average first putt when hitting the green from the fairway. So not only are you hitting the green, but you know, are you hitting it close enough to where we've got, you know, a scoring opportunity? And so especially when we're in that, you know, 100-yard and in range, that's where we really want to be hitting it close. So if I've got a student who, you know, from 91 to 100 yards here, you can see here, averaging 16 to 20 feet, I say, okay, for a good player, we probably want to be hitting it a little closer on average there. So maybe that's something we spend some time with. Accuracy stats here. You know, obviously lots of apps will keep fairways and greens, but what this is going to do is actually go a little further. So, you know, where are you missing it? Am I missing it left? Am I missing it right? Am I not getting to the fairway? And then greens and regulation, what are your tendencies? So you can see here, both of his are pretty equally distributed, so that's awesome to see. But, you know, for example, if we're looking at your greens and regulation and you're hitting 50% of the greens and 25% of the greens you miss are because you're short, you know, we might want to look at club selection. Very well could be that we're just not taking enough club on those shots. Right down here, miss penalty, basically how many, you know, how much is a big miss costing you? So you can see here, as he gets further away from the fairway, the strokes get worse, which is what you'd expect. Same thing, missing the green by more yards than that. So, and then this just kind of is a graph version of that. Probably my favorite two categories that the site is able to keep for us are our short game stats, because, you know, probably the most neglected part of the game, and that's a part of the game that for most of us is going to constitute at least 50% of our score is shots from 30 yards and in. So distance off the green versus up and down conversion. So if you're right around the green, how many times are you getting up and down? So you can see less than 3 yards off the green, 3 to 6, 7 to 8, and so on. And then how often are we getting those up and down? Here's the stat I like for me as the teacher. You know, to know if you're not getting the ball up and down, is it because we're not chipping it close, or is it because we're not putting well? So you can see right here, you know, off the green by less than 3 yards, you can see 36% of the time he's getting it inside of 3 feet, 40% of the time inside of 3 feet from 3 to 6. So we can look at his, from the short range shots here, he's hitting it pretty close. But we look at 7 to 8 yards, most of the time he's hitting it 9 to 10 feet. So as I know from looking at PGA Tour stats, the break-even point to make a putt for a PGA Tour player is about 8 feet. That's a 50-50 putt for them. So, you know, a little longer shots, we may want to get it a little closer than 9 to 10 feet, giving us better chances. And then same kind of stats here with bunker. And then putting stats, my favorite. You know, not only do we need to spend time on putting, but we need to know what length putts we need to practice. So we look at our number of putts from certain distances, and then this is your one putt percentage. This strokes gained stat is actually a pretty neat stat. Basically, it's just going to evaluate how your putter affects your score. So these are all compared to PGA Tour averages. So for most of us, our strokes gained stat is always going to be a negative number. Very rarely do we putt as well as a tour player. But, you know, so if you see a round of golf that you enter where your strokes gained stat is -5 or -6 shots versus another round where it's -2, tells you the putting really cost you on that -5 or 6. I love looking at these right here. So we have putt distance and how many putts we make. So that's, I mean, The easiest way to improve these scores is by improving these first 3 numbers. Inside of 3 feet, 3 to 5 feet, 6 to 8 feet. So you can see he's pretty good from all 3 of these right now. But if I see a student who from 3 to 5 feet we're only making half the putts, that's the first thing I'm going to target as an instructor. Rather than trying to dissect the entire round, I can simply go to this stats here and I know what we're going to work on before my student ever arrives. So I think it's a really cool way for the golfer to be able to kind of monitor what they're doing. And so most of us, we have jobs. Golf is not our sole use of our free time. And so what we'd like to do is, if we do get to practice, let's make it as productive as possible. So if we know what to work on, if this program can help us with where our time needs to be spent, I think we can really get a lot more out of our practice rather than just going to the range, hitting 7-irons, hitting drivers, maybe hit a couple of 10 or 12 footers and call it a day. We can say, okay, I need to work on 6 to 8 footers today, and I need to work on my wedge shots, and that's where we can really spend our time. So for my students, what I'm doing is it's going to be $10. It's going to be $100 for a calendar year to enroll in this, or it's going to be a $15 fee per month. So basically, that's exactly what I get charged here. So it's more or less a service for me to be able to coach you better. So if you're interested in this, you can certainly shoot me an email. It's andrew@andrewstevensgolf.com, and hopefully I'll be signing up some people here pretty soon, and we can get rolling with this great program.